We're back for another funding round session. We got Oleg in the building. We got Mike Jarmuz. What's up, Oleg? What's up, Mike?
I was just completely blown off by this video that you played in the beginning. I felt like I traveled through the universe. It was a great piece of entertainment. Thanks for
Y-
putting it together.
Yeah, it's the maker universe that we're all traversing, and you guys especially are helping that put some fuel in those rockets for sure. How about you, Mike? How are you doing?
I'm better than excellent. It's 4 o'clock here in sunny South Florida. So it's just at the end of the day, ready to hang out with some awesome people.
Happy White Paper Day. It's 15 years. Can you believe that? 15 years of this amazing technology that's birthed this industry now that you guys are focusing so much your attention on. How are you feeling about that? How are you guys celebrating the White Paper Day? Anything planned? You did anything?
Yeah, what are you doing, Oleg? Counting all that Bitcoin you got? How are you celebrating today?
It's raining outside, so I don't really have much to do other than just punching the keyboard. But I mean, Jones, thanks for putting this together, and thanks for having us. That's really like the best way to spend an evening in where I am right now.
Well, then I'm happy it's raining so that you could join. Thanks for the bad weather then. No, but today we're going to be talking about what's been happening in the space and what's to come. You know, because you guys definitely have a crystal ball, right? I mean, a lot of what you do is kind of like some analysis and trying to figure out how all these things kind of like the world events and all that affects these companies and all this kind of thing. But to get started, let's look at the past year. So thankfully, we're able to do this with your partnership at Fulger Ventures. You've entrusted us to put on this, I think, quite one of a kind event in the space. I was saying the original Legends of Lightning took about 6 months for us to 5 or 6 months for us to plan. It was quite daunting. This one is getting better, a little bit more efficient. We're kind of like bootstrapping ourselves here, but thankfully, amazingly, there was quite a number of successes. At least from my perspective, our first Legends of Lightning, we had 275 makers, we had 75 projects, and it really like set up this new format that we wanted to try for like a open incubation style event, a tournament. We call them tournaments, not just hackathons, right? And the purpose for it being so long, it went over like 9 weeks, I think the last one, was that people who are new to the industry, they're looking in, they want to learn about what this tech is and how to use it. They can participate, because if it's a weekend hackathon, then you can't really participate if you're coming in like completely cold, right? As a newbie. And we wanted it to be that long as well, so that projects have a time to develop, the teams have the time to form, find co-founders and stuff like that. And our winner last year of the one Bitcoin prize that Fogger sponsored was LightSats, right? But we also had a couple of the projects that it was Mutiny Wallet and Agreement that came runners up, and some projects we didn't even win. They also like ended up getting funding, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So the Bolt Fun alumni, from what we've been able to track so far, from what we know, it's over 10 million valuation, right? for those companies. 10-10-1, which was started. We did an interview with the founder, Philip. He said that they were kind of sitting on this idea for a while, a couple years, to go mobile and stuff like that. But he couldn't convince the team. But because of the tournament and the format and everything, he's like, "Hey, let's give this a try." Um, and something else that he mentioned in there was that even if they didn't win, it actually showed them like what they need to do better at, which was communication. So they thought that the building in public aspect, they could have leveraged that like a lot more. My question to you guys is, did you see any kind of like, did you interact with any of the projects or those that you did interact with? You don't need to mention any names, but those that you did interact with, maybe some advice to them for this new Legends of Lightning, what you would like to see, how your strategies have changed dealing with some of these projects and stuff like that. Oleg, maybe you could go first.
Who wants to go first?
I did.
I mean, like from the first day from the inception of Legends of Lightning, that was a huge inspiration for me, and I think like the key word is actually networking. So regardless of the prizes and who wins, it's all about meeting people and learning who's working on what and what kind of different ideas are developing in different regions. This year's Legends of Lightning is like bigger and better in terms of connecting with local communities and local conferences and bringing everybody together. Because what we thought is like, if you're at a conference, like there is a certain group of speakers who are traveling to this, and not necessarily all speakers are traveling to all conferences all the time. But if you're building on a platform like Ball.Fun, so there is a chance to hear from speakers who are not necessarily traveling to the place where you are. And you guys have done a great job putting together this program with content and speakers from everywhere. So yeah, I'm like super overwhelmed by the work that you've been doing, and super curious to connect with more builders in the space as we kind of like as the hackathon unfolds.
That's an interesting point about the networking aspect there. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of these companies or projects or whatever you want to call them, right? Projects did have success in the last batch, right? Like 10-10-1, who it was announced that they were in Wolf, right? That's no secret.
Yeah.
They had a successful round. I'm not sure all the details there, but definitely funded. Okay. And I think it's cool because we were just chatting before we started, like they're in again, right? They're competing. So that just goes to show you, like, that's an example of a really cool team. They have a really cool mindset. Like, they got a bunch of money. Like, they've closed, let's say north of 7 figures, for their company, but they're not too cool or too big, all right, or don't have time for this little Bolt Fun tournament, right? So they highly respect the people that are here and the audience that's here, and like, I think that personally says a lot. The fact that they're in here. I mean, we were chatting about Mutiny, right? That was a successful oversubscribed round. I believe it was a small round. I mean, and look at the team there. I mean, you have Tony, you have Paul, you have Ben Carmen. I mean, that's as good as it gets. You had Jolts, Ian Major. I know they're sponsoring things, right? I think they got some funding at least enough to sponsor a few conferences and other things. I think they're back again in this current tournament, and I think that's a really cool metric that you guys should probably follow, is how many, whether it's a project or whether it's a maker, actually returns for a future tournament. I think that that would probably say a lot about how you're doing. Some of the things in the past, I mean, some of my favorite things in here, I don't know if they're like businesses, that are raising, like we were talking about BTC Map, I mean, how cool is that? Is that a business? Are they seeking funding? Is that even an incorporated thing? That to me seems like something that would get like an OpenSats grant, or, go that route, and kind of the non-dilutive crowdsource sort of support as just a project that really the Bitcoin community needs. I mean, remember back in the day, you'd go on these primitive websites and you would look up some weird donut shop maybe that you never heard of that takes Bitcoin, and then you get there and they have no idea what Bitcoin is. Somebody once listed them on a site. Yeah. But like even the LNVPN, that's a really cool project. Is that a business? I don't know. People are loving that stuff, and these are the
That's
type of, yeah.
Yeah, that's a potential big business. Like all of those YouTube videos, they're always sponsored by some VPN. So I'm pretty sure that's a big enough market. There's Nord, they're always like doing a paid sponsorship, and like a couple others as well. ExpressVPN, they're just always sponsoring. So I'm pretty sure it's and especially in the times that we live now as well, right?
Yeah, or even like the LN Cal, whether that's a business or not. I did a call with him early on, and this was like a side business. This was something cool that he was doing, and you have people like Giacomo Zucco who like use it religiously. Everything he books is through LN Cal, so you kind of like get the support of these awesome people in the space.
Yeah. Not every project needs to be kind of like this like multi-billion-dollar kind of like unicorn target. I definitely, me personally, I would encourage people to try to build like lifestyle businesses in the space as well. We need those too, but also like open source projects. We had like Afro mnemonics, for example. They translated a bunch of the mnemonics into like local languages. Similar to BTC Map, maybe not a business, but great for the community, in the past year, there's also been like quite a number of developments with regards to like technology and stuff, right? So a big one since the last Legend of Lightning was like ordinals and Bitcoin NFTs and even new assets, right? Taro, Taproot, RGB, etc. They had some big announcements. Ordinals, quite controversial, caused a big stir. We have more accelerators coming up, more hacker spaces as well, popping up all over the world. Tons of developer education programs, and I know Folger's doing a lot of work on that front as well. Identity and distributed storage, so things like slash tags, Noster, TBD, DIDs, they're starting to these kind of like Bitcoin adjacent technologies, they're on the rise now. They're giving some interesting use cases to the money layer, the Bitcoin part. A lot more things, in my opinion, is coming up on the application layer. You see a lot of makers who are able to actually build things on the application layer, build use cases, not just infrastructure. I think a few years ago when I spoke to you, Oleg, I asked you what the kind of stuff that you invest in, and you were saying it was very much infrastructure-based stuff. I would like to, like after I go through this list, I would like to see if that's changed now. A bunch more of Lightning service providers. We have like Blink, Galoy. They're providing their APIs. Lightspark, LNBits. Who else? Like all these companies, like Albi, of course. They're providing all these tools and stuff like that for people to integrate Lightning. ZBD, for people to integrate Lightning into their fintech products and applications. Lot of interest in eCash. Super, like lots of interest in eCash. Cashew is going ballistic. Fedimint is like super hyped. There's liquidity and risk as well, right? Some papers came out, some announcements about Lightning's future, the attack vectors in a trustless environment, and people understanding that, I can't lock up my this liquidity in these channels if people aren't using them and whatnot. And yeah, tons of conferences, so many conferences. Like right now, like in this like past couple months, we have TabConf in Atlanta, you have Indonesia Bitcoin Conf, you have SatsConf. It's like we partnered up with a lot of those, but that's just the layout. Like, what do you guys make of these developments? Are they adjusting? Like, are they changing your perspective on how you invest and whatnot? Mike, maybe you could start up.
No, Oleg, what do you think?
It's interesting how you mentioned the opportunities are evolving. So before there was Bitcoin, and you could build something like on chain, and then there was Lightning, and you could build things around the Lightning Network implementation, such as some tooling, monitoring, and things alike. And then there is infrastructure. So suddenly there is a way to build applications without actually building the whole stack and just using what others have been building. Like there are companies that you guys mentioned, ZBD, Voltage, Albi, and many others who are just providing APIs to build applications. And over the past years, we've been seeing growth in infrastructure companies. So companies that build infrastructure for other builders. But what we're seeing right now, and this is what we're super excited at Folger, is actually building the infrastructure for builders. Actually, we just hosted an event that was called Build the Builders. That was about building an ecosystem of education, of events, of co-working places that would host talent, host builders, and provide them education, provide them networking opportunities and space to build more. Now that the infrastructure, the software infrastructure is kind of like slowly getting there, we're talking about the infrastructure, the community infrastructure, to actually put people and ideas together and help people build things over the infrastructure that has been built over a couple of other years. And also to mention briefly that during the cyclicality of Bitcoin and Lightning and any other technology space, there is usually cycles of like consolidation and like hyperactivity. And definitely during the bear markets, there is a lot of like building activity that leads to experimentation with new ideas, with new concepts, like different things on top of Lightning, different things aside to Bitcoin and Lightning. So it's really been a very active and hyperactive space recently. But let's see how the fundamental values of Bitcoin and the features of Bitcoin and Lightning translate into usable applications. So we're gonna have exciting years ahead because of the combination of software infrastructure and community infrastructure that's emerging, including events, conferences, spaces, etc.
Yeah, so your angle is like with the communities and educational programs and stuff, that's like kind of like top of the funnel to ensure that like things continue to get built and the infrastructure gets used, is what I'm understanding. So you're still going to be investing in the infrastructure side of things, obviously, I'm assuming.
We are big supporters of everything that leads to building communities and sharing education and knowledge in the space, and we hope to be able to continue to help build companies and invest in Bitcoin companies, Lightning companies that build for the emerging markets, and also companies that build using other decentralized internet and communication technologies. So that's kind of like where we're heading with the years to come.
I see. So with regards to the local ones, because I do have a thing to ask about that later. But with regards to these local and regional kind of like emerging markets, as you call it, what specifically in those areas? Is it infrastructure as well? Because I do remember there was A company got funded recently, Gridless or something like this, somewhere in Africa, Kenya or something. Is it companies like that, or is it like more in the application layer? Like what would be appealing for you? Like what's like what in those regions are kind of exciting for you when you hear or see
Well,
them?
the regions themselves are really exciting because these are developing economies where financial infrastructure is needed and is going to be largely beneficial if it's financial infrastructure like Bitcoin and Lightning for payments, for remittances,
Mm,
for business to business payouts. We have been historically focusing more on the software side. That's kind of like our DNA as software entrepreneurs and operators of software business. But we've also recently been looking into the other aspects of where Bitcoin overlaps with the global economy, such as energy, such as mining.
mm,
So there is, yeah, we're trying to follow these parts as well while keeping our focus on supporting software companies with our understanding how to build scalable software companies.
okay, thank you, thank you. Mike, how about you? Like tons of developments happening. Have you invested in any ordinals companies?
Well, first off, Oleg gets the most credit for sure because he was investing before anyone into this space, solely. Maybe Max Kaiser's got him beat, maybe. But Oleg, and probably not actually. And Oleg knows really when there was all you could invest in was a wallet or an exchange. There weren't so much, and everything that there is now, right? He mentioned other communications protocols. I don't know if that's a hint at Noster or if that's things that are kind of adjacent and working with Noster, like Albi, which is not a Noster company, but they're certainly on the forefront of everything that's going on in that area, right? Or something like Cloaked Wireless or Wasabi, which is actually, if you ask them their company, they're not even a Bitcoin company. They'll tell you they're a communications company running CoinJoin and enhanced Bitcoin privacy, as we like to refer to it as. But yeah, there's just so much that you can invest in right now. There's so many different things. He's talking about infrastructure and all over the world. I mean, what's appealing is, billions of people that are all going to have an Android phone and need Bitcoin. So a lot of these infrastructure, what is there? Like there's IBEX, there's OpenNode,
Deloitte.
lightning service providers, SDKs like Breeze, the
Mm,
node stuff, voltage. I mean, these things weren't even around when Oleg was investing, or when it all started. Now there's so much, right? You're laying that highway and the cars are just barely getting assembled. There's just so much to invest in. And also hats off to Oleg for really being early with the hackathons and the builders. I mean, I personally, don't, having a little bit of revenue kind of post launch, even if it's just a few weeks, that's really like a sweet spot, looking at KPIs on something that's live with some initial feedback and a working demo. It's easy to raise on something that maybe isn't built yet.
mm,
Okay. And in these hackathons, you're getting, people who are just on their own that are joining teams and building and competing. And it's really where a serious talent pool gathers and comes from. And if you were in Bitcoin HR or Bitcoin jobs or were in recruiting, this is where these people should be hanging out, right? Is to find that next full stack developer that's going to end up working for one of these companies coming out of something like this. There's just a huge talent there. So, I mean, Oleg's always 10 steps ahead of everyone, so he keeps close to this ground zero of where these things are being built.
Yeah,
What
we
about you,
now
Mike?
sound like we sound like VCs congratulating themselves, or like Mike congratulating Oleg, which is completely what I would want to avoid. But the hackathons, it's true. We were supporting hackathons from 2019, but it's not until they got into the hands of Jones and Paul Fund that they became like really professionalized and really global with value added content. Yeah, we just encourage everybody to get the maximum of the hackathons. And if you're missing something, reach out to all of us and tell us what you're missing, because we want to continue building better hackathons, and also hackathons that provide inflow of talent into existing companies, into existing projects, into new projects, and also into investable projects. So yeah, take your opportunity and give us feedback about what how to build a better Legends of Lightning.
For sure. We got a comment from Moritz there. It can't be appreciated enough how important these Bitcoin early stage investors are for the ecosystem. So there you go. It's
So
not
we
just VCs.
double down on congratulating the VCs.
It's not just VCs congratulating themselves. It's portfolio companies of VCs congratulating themselves. This is Moritz from Albi. Awesome work that they do there. Okay, so we've done with the congratulation train, but very well deserved. Very important to highlight wins. It's something that we like. It is important. I was thinking about writing a piece there about like staying motivated during tournaments and stuff. Like just not just during the tournament, just staying motivated as a builder. And it is good to get like a little pat on the back sometimes. So there you go. Or like, but Mike, for you, yeah. So like all these developments over the past year, like are they influencing your investment strategy? Um, there's a lot more opportunities here. You seem to like on the application layer. You also have, I think, a consumer angle with some of the things that you invest in as well. Not just infrastructure, but are you seeing like the types of projects kind of like changing that you're kind of getting excited about?
Um, there's so many different things to invest in. I don't, we haven't made a mining investment yet, not through our pilot fund or through the syndicate. We participated in and helped out with the Allegis Mummelin deal for that raise, but there just hasn't been any appetite for it. And it's just really tough. And I'm actually thankful that we haven't invested during this bear market in mining. And maybe there were some really good deals in there. I don't think Oleg has invested in too many mining companies as well. But it's not just mining, right? Because now you have power. You have innovations with Bitcoin and power all the way around. That's growing into its own. Those aren't really my favorite things to look at, mining stuff. Some people love it, right? It's all they do. So I have a couple of trusted people, and when there's something interesting in mining, I give it to them because they love it, and that's for them to look at. It's not for me. I like fun stuff. You know, fun companies. Spin the wheel and get your sats back.
Why?
Browser extensions. All sorts of cool stuff, right? Just fun things. And there are some people who they're really heavy in games. They really prefer, they know the gaming VC traditional games, and they focus in that area. And some that are really just focused in infrastructure, and they don't even want to look at games. So I think everyone has a flavor for like what they like to look at. And I'm sure if we see something, if Oleg's flavor and that also depends on what cycle you're at, right? You might be investing, you might not be investing, you might be in between capital calls. There's a number of other things that can make a difference on whether somebody's investing or not. But Oleg knows my flavor, right? It's pretty clear and simple and easy. So if he gets something, he might send it to me because he knows it's what I like, right? And everyone kind of has that, right? Max Webster does, Elise Colleen certainly does, and we all just kind of, you know, have our style. It's like what you like, you know, what you like to look at.
I was just about to say that our flavor is Bitcoin is orange, which is Bitcoin, but then I noticed you have orange on your T-shirt. Yeah, so we have all things in common, and obviously the one of the key characteristics of the venture capital firms in the space is that they're trying to network with each other and kind of like help each other out. And during like speaking of the current phase of the market, during the bear market, we were very mindful about allocating capital so that we have the capacity to support our existing portfolio companies as well. But we also kind of like doubled down on infrastructure such as hackathons, education, and trying to help the community grow despite the bear market. Yeah.
I guess what would be the next step is really how do you take the kind of pre-accelerator, right? If you take something like a pre-accelerator like Bolt Fund, if that's what that is. I mean, I don't know if that's really a word or not.
Incubator. It's the incubator.
Incubator. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you take that and really help them directly kind of get funding, you know? Because that's kind of the thing, right? Is you'll end up, some of these projects will, just like they did last year, you know, they went out and raised rounds. Some of them got into Wolf, or maybe I don't know if there's other Bitcoin accelerators or that they got into. But like, how do you take them from maybe they're not incorporated, maybe they're working on something, okay, and then Oleg as the main sponsor says, hey, you guys are great, you're working on this, I have a great idea for you, why don't I take a meaningful role in your business, and why don't you like work on that a little bit, you know what I mean, and just kind of set that right, and then be a part of them moving forward. Because like the ROI on sponsoring events, like that seems like there's a missing piece, right? Because we can give so much advice on how to get funded and pitch decks and all that stuff, but what is that missing piece there? Oleg, have you ever thought about that?
What we feel what we feel about Ball.fun is that it's evolving in like this kind of top of the funnel for builders in the space to try things out in a very kind of random, chaotic, like self-driven way with the help of experts, but where you're kind of like responsible for your own outcomes, but you also don't have like a lot of risk, and it's mostly like reward. So the reward is high, but the risk is like very low because you can spend as much time as you want building a project, can switch from one project to another, etc., etc. And that kind of hopefully helps to bootstrap more builders activity. And then we have luckily another layer of the funnel, such as incubators and accelerators, which are also growing. And Mike mentioned one of them, Wolf, which is an awesome New York City based accelerator, which provides like a little bit more structure and much more support, but still like requires taking like a bit of risk, such as like traveling to New York, but you also like get funded if you get accepted. So it's kind of like a controlled risk, which gets the ecosystem to another like layer. And then there is all sorts of venture capital animals, of which Mike has a great presentation that I think was videoed during the Prague conference. What kind of sources of capital exist for further funding of the companies? So it all kind of comes together, starting with Bull.fund, providing like an elevator for your elevator pitch. starting with wherever you are and working on like whatever you like, and getting to the next step by step.
So now we're at VCs congratulating Bold Fun. Thank you. Yes, I love it. I love it. I
It's just you and me, Oleg.
outlook. Before we get to that, I would say that we do have some stuff in the works. So no announcements as yet, but we've been thinking and building and working on some things that you might be interested in, Mike, and also we've been talking as well. So we'll see what comes in 2024. Um, uh, I want to be transparent for the makers here that are listening as well. Bolt Fun, we're figuring stuff out. Last year was the first time we started putting on tournaments. There's a lot of like inefficiencies that we have as that this project and community has. We recently hired a community manager to pay some attention and help with communication of some of the activities that we have. This is like we're growing and like trying to figure things out as well. And this is just a natural aspect of any kind of venture that you decide to go into, whether it be a venture funded one or whether it be a community-based one like what we're currently at Bold Fun. And that changes over time. I just had a conversation with this woman, Rachel Fish from Lightning Labs, who gave a presentation on something called LNC, Lightning Node Connect. And as a teenager and high school, she started a community called Wetfish. And that's 18 years ago. And she started in 2005. And now it's turned into kind of like a consulting, what you call it, research and development thing. But it was just like, it started off as a forum with people. And people in that forum are able to kind of like collaborate and stuff on projects and help each other on projects for commercial gain, for clients. So, these things take time to develop. You have to test messaging. We're trying to figure that part out, our marketing side, try to do better and make processes more efficient so that we can really scale up our mission here. So yeah, just I want to empathize with other builders out there. We also have a lot of challenges with regards to how to make sure that this is sustainable, right? Because we're not venture backed. And so far it's been bootstrapped, but we're trying to develop like maybe business models through sponsorships and partnerships and seeing if that could help us. But even with that, we're going to hit like some ceilings, right? Because tournaments take up a lot of time to organize, to make sure we're communicating things properly. Scheduling, it's insane. Calendars are like, whoa, you have to cat herd like a bunch of speakers and making sure that everyone has the information they need, the links, etc. Then judges. So it takes up a lot of time. So maybe we can think about how to have some model where we're able to scale up revenues in some other kind of way, something that's more scalable, right? That's just a peek. That was just a sidebar for like some of the struggles and challenges and thoughts that that a project may be going through. And I referenced the Rachel's community as well, because sometimes it takes a really long time to figure out what this thing is going to be. But that's why we have this community, and that's why we're building together, building in public, etc. The times are kind of exciting, though. We have number going up. We're on white paper day. Um, a lot of companies in the past year or two, I've been hearing that are either closing down silently. I think that should be a bit more public so that people understand, what's happening in the ecosystem. Some people are having very difficult time raising money, right? It's you guys aren't so loose with your checks. What's up? Right? And but this is a natural process. Oleg, maybe you could talk about that from your perspective. You know, the state
I,
of investing and what the future might hold.
it's not a surprise for anyone in the industry that the availability of capital is correlated with the Bitcoin price, and the broader venture capital industry also has its own cycles, and we're in the global like venture capital bear cycle as well because of the lack of willingness to put capital at risk when you can put capital to earn interest on high interest products. So yeah, it's a difficult economic environment, but what makes Bitcoin and Lightning startups and other startups building in the space different from and large to large part immune from this and from what's happening in the other parts of the venture capital or like broader like blockchain ecosystem is that most of the teams that we've seen are very lean and very focused and don't overspend, don't over exaggerate products, but just build the most essential things that just work, thanks to the simplicity and the design of the Bitcoin software stack and availability of specialized tools that have already been built. So we encourage everyone to be mindful about building what actually works and creates actual value on top of the Bitcoin value proposition as a monetary system with a settlement layer, which is Lightning, which is useful for payments, useful for digital media, digital content, entertainment payments, games payments, and other payments things, but also there is going to be more utilization of Bitcoin as an asset in like Bitcoin native financial applications, starting from like trading applications such as on markets, 10101, but also applications that unlock the Bitcoin value as an ultimate and like superior type of collateral. It's the only thing that kind of changes the perspective these days is during the times where capital is scarce, you kind of like really tend to focus more on like revenue and how to make money if you're building a for-profit company, even if you're building like what you call, Jones, like a more like a private business, like a small business. Even there, like even more, you typically tend to focus on revenue and on making something that others are going to pay for. So that's true like for any business, and largely all this like venture capital downturns and bubbles, they are caused because there is a large portion of capital that's misallocated to fast growing startups that do not have sustainable business models because their economics just doesn't work. They're attracting users, spending money, but their users are not paying enough to return all the investment in product development and user acquisition. And that's something to be really mindful about. Things like premature scaling or building something that users are not willing to pay for, or not finding a business model that can scale or at least like break even under reasonable assumptions that take into account that Bitcoin is very early, Lightning Network is very early. There's like only a bunch of people who really use Bitcoin and Lightning. And another interesting aspect of this is actually being able to like go outside of the Bitcoin user base and build something that's going to be interesting for people outside of who never touched Bitcoin, who never held Bitcoin, such as like the spinning wheel that Mike mentioned, like Bitcoin rewards, just which is an awesome way to for people outside of the Bitcoin community to learn about Bitcoin and get some Bitcoin without actually going through the overheads of buying Bitcoin. So building for non-Bitcoiners, building products that can generate revenue. That's yeah, that's probably something that's going to be part of the next wave of say like Bitcoin venture capital scene. If yeah, if you all.
Projects that are able to have revenue streams. There's a bit of a joke in like founder circles and stuff like that. It's like everyone has their logos on everyone else's uh, pitch decks for the in the Bitcoin space, right? So I would definitely like to see some of this more outward view where we're able to whether it's a fintech company that's already established that you're integrating with, or whether you're touching a new market. I think you're right on point there. So Mike was right. There's another congratulations for you. You were right. You are you're 10 steps ahead. What about you, Mike? Yeah, what's your take on that?
You said a couple of things. First thing you said was that, companies were quietly shutting down. That is not to my knowledge. Okay. So
No.
I'm not agreeing with that. I don't know of anything that to be the case. Certainly in a broader portfolio of over 1,500 companies, I have had my fair share of dissolution letters that I all file away in multiple places. One is in the file manager right up here. Number two is, on file and a record, right, of every company that you've invested in, and then the updates from the company, right, however many you've gotten. And then ultimately, if the founder is a decent person, he will actually write a letter of some sort chronicling what they learned, what happened along the way, and like get that out. And it's like an excellent, and I always get upset when you get a dissolution from a company and there's nothing accompanying it. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay that we lose, but like, can we learn something too? And I don't know that to be the case with Bitcoin companies. In fact, some of them, which I find to be a really unique quality that nobody really talks about, is a lot of our founders like refuse to die. Like, I know for a fact, like, I don't want to name names. I really do want to name names, but I won't name names of like founders that, like, I know for a fact if that bank account was at zero, they would not stop, period. Okay. And I don't know. I mean, it looks like he's agreeing, he's nodding, but I don't believe that to be the case with your healthcare startup. Okay. Or your medical device company. Okay. I don't think there's that same level that exists in Bitcoin. And I think that that's like super special. Oleg,
Why
am
is
I
that?
crazy or do you agree?
Sorry, guys, you were talking kind of like at the same time, and I lost everything.
Mike was
Cool.
asking if you agree, and I was asking why is that. So maybe you can answer and answer why is it that these companies, these founders, are in the Bitcoin space are refusing to die. Then.
Oh, I can't answer on behalf of the founders,
Yeah.
but from our point of view, and the reason why we're in this space and working together with everybody else is Bitcoin is a very special type of innovation. It's a software and a monetary innovation that has profound impact on society, and it just feels great to be in this space. And also, yes, by the way, building most of the Bitcoin startups does not require a lot of capital. It's a very efficient way to actually start building something because because most of the startups, I don't know, like Mike, what you have seen, but what we have seen is startups that require quite small amount of capital to start with compared to say like the traditional like venture capital startups. Partially it's because of the qualities of the founders, like those that Mike mentioned that we're just like building, but also because of the properties of the open source software. So there's a lot of things that have been built that are free to use, and also because of the spirit of community, sharing knowledge with each other through platforms like Bol.fun, or through other platforms, just helping each other out. It's a space to be in, because of the unique opportunities and qualities of the space and everyone who is building.
If I had to play devil's avocado here, the companies within the Bitcoin space. Okay, maybe I ask a question first about like traction. How does traction for you guys look like when you're getting a pitch? Like, is it a metric that you're like? Is it one of those KPIs that you're like, we want to see like this kind of growth, the hockey stick kind of growth kind of thing? Like, to me, projects come in like a bit earlier than that, but maybe you could talk about this traction aspect. Is it a KPI that you?
Most of every company that we invested in or helped fill their round and invest, whether that's through the syndicate or through our pilot fund or in general, most of them were all post revenue, post some kind of traction, right? With a few exceptions that were early on pre-revenue, which we did invest in still, right? It's not a hard rule, but a lot of people do. I know one VC for sure, not in the Bitcoin space, but he doesn't invest in anything pre-revenue. Doesn't matter the team, doesn't matter the idea, doesn't matter. They just don't invest in that. So most of the things we've invested in has, and I really value that. We have a deal right now that we're doing. Maybe this company is only 7 weeks in, okay, but it's 7 weeks of data. It's 7 weeks of a live product, a live working product. Oleg, I got to introduce you to him. You got to talk to him. A live working product, and you can at least measure the growth there. So yeah, for me, it's super important. I don't know about Oleg.
Like from day one, our mission has always been to try and engage with the most interesting founders, and at the most earliest at the earliest stage. So we're kind of like used to not seeing traction, and also like 2018, 2019, not a lot of users on Lightning Network, not a lot of transactions. So it kind of it was kind of like the environment where things were just like getting started. Obviously, like now we like there are companies, and including companies in our portfolio and not in our portfolio, that have considerable traction even by like traditional venture capital metrics, both in like revenue, numbers of users, numbers of the transactions. But yeah, I guess like we're still early in the space, so it's probably not a surprise that there is like a lot of early stage opportunities, and a lot of early stage ideas where the team is all that matters.
Yeah, I was recently talking to Max about this, and he says that he likes to be the first yes for the projects. So he gets a better deal, obviously, and yeah, I guess the reason I raised that, you kind of touched on that point, which was about it's such an early stage in the ecosystem, and it's still kind of like the Bitcoiners you're selling to. Which is a small market, which like I believe, I'm not saying none of your metrics are wrong or anything like that, not at all. This is just like a natural progression of a new ecosystem, a new technology, a new industry, right? It's going to be the early enthusiasts that are the early adopters that are your main users. The community that's going to be the main users. But I do believe that there is, like with traditional VCs and companies and stuff like that, one of the reasons why they might have a so demanding cost is because they're building out those marketing teams initially or very early. I don't think, like, even for us here, like, we're trying to figure out marketing still, right? trying to assemble the team and figure out how to communicate X, Y, Z. A lot of these companies in traditional Silicon Valley VC world, they're doing that by template design as like some of their first objectives, you know. So I think they have like a bigger focus on like that traction for like large user base, large numbers, and if it's revenue, if they're looking at revenue, then they would. I mean, yeah, I think I don't want to say it in a bad way, but like more meaningful revenue. I don't think. Maybe you guys could tell me. Is like, are we like, do we have Bitcoin companies that are actually like profitable? I don't know. Hopefully, that's not too crass of me to say.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does exist.
Okay. Well, shed the light on me. I want to learn.
No, well, first thing is it's a matter of like when you're talking about that, it's a matter of staying alive long enough. Okay. So some of these ideas, it's just, are you too early? Is hyper Bitcoinization, and is it not fully ready for your solution, which is just ultimately ahead of its time, but you weren't capital efficient with how you scaled, what you bootstrapped, and what you did, and you just ran out of gas. And then 7 months after you're done is when all the shit happens, you know? And if you could just spend less and like make it last and stay alive. I mean, I think a lot of there are some profitable companies, and that's the one good thing about a shitty market like this, is it really forces you to get it together. You can't just like know that there's this not unlimited, but there's this very generous pool of other people's money. And every so often you could just go back to the pool and shake around a bit and get in, you know, some money, right? When that's gone, you really have to think, okay, what do we do now? What does that cost us? And what would it take for us to actually even get to any kind of a cash flow break even? And then all of a sudden you realize like, okay, well, my product's not live. My marketing spend should probably be like zero. Maybe I'll just cut that now because like I'm not in market with anything, right? So then you really start to rein it in, okay? And there's some great stories, right? There's some great stories right now of turnarounds in companies, and you cut a burn from 6 figures down, and then you grow the business, you claw back, and next thing you know, you're bubbling on breaking even. And breaking even now in this shit market. Just wait till the other side of it. It's going to be a whole nother story. All of these exchanges that are getting there now, okay, on the other side of this thing, it's going to be bonkers. You know, same thing with all the infrastructure companies, all the payments companies. I mean, people, you know, remember those like early Lightning Network sort of maps? You know what I mean? And you saw those like connections on there, and now it's like, you know, ridiculous. Okay. Like the way that I see it sometimes is like the world and like each of these on and off ramps, like you can just put them on the pins, right? You can put Amber in Australia, you've got BIPA in Brazil, you've got Relay in Switzerland, you've got Coin Corner, and then you've got BitNob, and then you've got all of these different sort of Beaver Bitcoin in Canada. Or just whatever. You have all these exchanges, Azteco, all these on ramps, right? And you connect those, okay, and that lights up the map. And then you think about, okay, which one of these are participating in Strike's Send Globally network, right? How is that going to look? Okay, well, BitNob's in with Strike, right? And Coin Corner's in, and then Coin Corner's going to Dubai, and GetBit is in India, and Neutron Pay is in Vietnam. And, you know, you sort of have these rails and these things that are just really getting rolling, right? Maybe the volume's a joke right now, okay? Maybe the volume is not where it will be, but it's getting there. And then on top of that, on the map that's lighting up, you think about the infrastructure companies that are actually going to allow for that to happen, okay? And how are these exchanges implementing Lightning? Okay, are they custodial or non-custodial? Are they using what SDK? are they using? You know what I mean? Or all of these service providers, right? And you have that whole ecosystem that's flourishing. And then on top of that, you have the payments and you have the rewards. And there's just so many other things, right? It's just there's so much going on. It's just really exciting. Everything that's out there, you just gotta stay alive.
You mentioned marketing and how marketing can impact the way to profitability. So if you're thinking of building a startup that you want to take to profit, it actually might be easier to start with a business to business startup, and even like starting with something like consulting. Because if you think of consulting, so if somebody is paying you for your services, that actually means that these services are like really valuable. And then you can build a product which kind of like automates provision of this service or becomes an upsell to this service. And then it's much easier to find like 10, 20, like 100 businesses that are much more sustainable in their behavior than consumers. Because typically a business wants to increase their revenue and save costs, and your solution is providing either of the two, and then the business is going to pay you as long as the solution works in such a way so that it actually optimizes their business. It makes them generate more money, or it makes them like spend less money. And with a few businesses like that, you could become break even and even profitable, and that's how the whole software as a service industry came into existence, because they realized that selling software as a service to businesses can be very profitable. And the other way of thinking about profit is maybe trying to decouple your business model from transaction volumes and transaction revenue, because for the near-term future, Lightning Network and Bitcoin are still evolving, and they're not going to host all the transactions in the world. But the market that you ideally want to target is a very big market, which you will need to develop over the coming years. So decoupling revenue and profit from transaction volume and transaction fees is another way to avoid pitfalls of not making enough revenue or not making profit to sustain the company, or to be able to raise more money. And finally, speaking of marketing, so marketing has like several sins and vices, and one of them is like, as soon as you spend on marketing, typically the one half of the money is going uh, to mistakenly taken hypothesis and is actually lost, but you never know which half of money is that. And the other thing is like, why so many companies get hurt by overspending in marketing, because they tend to spend in their marketing dollars by thinking that they can trick users to buy their product, so that they can actually trick their metrics, which creates a lot of artificial inflated behavior, and does not actually help to acquire loyal users who use the product for value. And the best way to find users is actually to follow what users actually want, and try to build a product that users are going to use without the need of being like convinced to use it by advertising or by discounts, etc., etc. And then once you find this value that users are willing to use and stick with it, then you can scale the user base by applying some marketing budget only when you already know that there are users who are actually valuing your product, and you know how to communicate these values to attract other users without tricks and without overselling and without going through this sins of marketing, such as losing half of the budget and also trying to spend marketing in a way that tricks users and tricks metrics, and eventually leads to unsustainable growth. That's part of the disaster happening or that has happened in traditional venture capital.
Yeah, I think that some of the things that you have underlined here about founders not willing to die, they keep going on, they keep at it in the Bitcoin industry. What you mentioned about marketing here, as well. It just shows kind of like the slow and steady wins the race kind of methodology, deep thinking about it. I would say that there needs to also be some balance about like learning how to communicate about your project as well. I think that's we're in an industry where people are very technical, and explaining what is it that you're building, the value of it, etc. Some people really struggle with that, and telling the world about it as well. It's also quite important, because if it happens but you don't tweet it, or you don't put it out there, then did it happen?
Yeah, marketing starts with product marketing, which is user experience. Yep. Translating what the product does in a way that an average user understands and is really interested to like touch and play with any user.
Yeah. The target user, and figuring out who the target user is as well. That's also a part of it as well. Mike, you were about to say something?
I think that's a good reason to build in public. I think it helps you kind of hone some of that marketing message, or even just as a free way for people to discover what you're doing. I mean, look at how it is now, right? Oleg and I are both investing and helping companies in one way or another. Portfolio of them that we've already invested in, which, by the way, people often forget about. I was just talking to someone the other day, like, we're not investing, like there's no opportunity, whatever it is, but like, how can we be helpful? Like, is there a potential partnership with one of our companies? Like, do you want an intro? Is there something else that can happen? Like, there's a lot of other good that can come from the conversation that doesn't necessarily, result in an investment. At least that's where I'm thinking, because I'm always thinking, like, even if we're not, like, we should connect them with whoever, from the company, and then they have a conversation. A lot of times that leads to good things. But we're sitting here and we're basically flipping through and like playing around with the projects that were both in the previous tournament and are in the current one now. And depending on how much of a deep dive, Oleg used to have a whole crazy spreadsheet, and someone worked for him, and he had like everything that was building anything. Stuff like this would end up in that spreadsheet, for another time. So I think it's great to do this, because you're going to get free eyeballs on your project, and you're probably going to figure out a lot of these problems, because there's accountability, right? Like, you have to show up and do something.
Exactly. And you get like one big part of the building in public thing as well is that you get to build up an initial set of users. It's very typical. You're building something for how many months, and then you put it live, but you don't have an audience to start using it. So then you have to start that work to get people to test out your product, give you feedback, and those feedback loops are super critical as well. One for improved UX and features and stuff like that, but also on the road to product market fit. That's like a continuous process of learning how to communicate what it is you're doing, trying to figure out who your target user is, who's the one that you're going to be able to make revenues from, etc. Just before we close off, because I think we've I lost track of the time there. I'd love to go through some of the projects, just highlight the Bolt Fund. Oh no, sorry, I'm on the wrong. Is this okay now? We have this new tournaments page finally, so you can see all the different tournaments we got. We got 49 projects, 10. We're not in the tournament. I wish we could.
Wait. I have a question. How does this ranking work? Is this by the amount of sats, like through a tip?
No. It's just like who entered the tournament first, basically. It's
because 10-10-1 has 20,000 sats.
No. It's we don't have the leaderboard yet. When we get to break even, then we'll build that leaderboard system in. But we got 10-10-1 Jolts, Nutstash. There's as I mentioned, there's a lot of eCash stuff happening. So this one is built in using Cashew, I believe. Goodsters, right? We got Play BI, so we got some AI projects as well, some merchant-based project. The Albi team is with Bitcoin Connect, really cool stuff. Task Tiger, this is a super cool one as well. Are you guys looking into any like AI plus Bitcoin projects, by the way?
Oleg?
We're trying to, but for me, AI is like a big new animal that I'm still learning about. But there is definitely a huge promise in what AI can do in certain industries. It can work better in some industries, maybe in some not as bad as in the others, and not as good as in the others. And yeah, we're trying to learn about AI. Super curious to talk to those who are building something AI related.
Yeah, I have a potential introduction for you, by the way. It's a really cool project we're working with. Um, yeah, we got like tons of projects, split sets. Yeah, just like that's one Italian team, by the way, from Bitpolito. Uh, yeah, we got sats for languages. Just like some Revolver is super cool as well. This one is super interesting. They're doing Revolver. They're doing this what do they call it? Decentralized. I can't pronounce this. Education system for open source bounties that minimize grantor discretion and provides developers assurance of payment. Okay, maybe that's one of those things that can kind of like do some wordsmithing, but it's a super interesting primitive that can unlock some cool mechanisms in the future. Peak Pay, Node Runners Radio. This is just a fun, cool project. Jukeboxes, a couple jukeboxes there. Another wallet there. Yeah, Mike, do you have any projects that you've been looking at from this list?
I mean, there's a bunch of interesting things. I don't know if they're still active, right?
This is Legends of Lightning too. This is
I
Legends
like
of Lightning.
BoltFi. Is BoltFi out? Like
Uh,
I want to learn more about their thing, but
let's check about BoltFi. BoltFi offers a fast, safer, and more private Wi-Fi experience. Okay, interesting. No need to
I'm
give
li
away your person. Oh, this is actually super cool. I had a conversation with somebody about this. Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, we've
Actually,
been waiting for something like this since many years.
whoa, okay, this is super cool. I actually worked with a startup in Indonesia some years ago. That was they haven't written any stories. Guys, come on, what's happening?
that's
You
what
got a
I'm
team of
saying.
four?
Can I
Come
message them?
on.
Can I comment?
Well, they haven't posted anything to comment on, dude. Oh,
I'd be
God,
like, where are you?
guys, what's going on? Yeah, no, exactly.
I'm gonna
Shit.
tip them
Anyway,
1,000 sats
yeah, together. Yeah, I think that's Spanish. Un
through
mundo.
my
Yeah, it sounds
Albi
Spanish.
integration, seamlessly through my Albi integration. Let me just give a plug there. I did just
You
tip
just
them.
tip
So listen,
them.
Fi, you got a reason to log back in. I just threw 1,000 sats at you.
I'm gonna tip 1,000 sats as well. Oh, doing password. Okay, let's do it. Like 1,000 sats. Oleg, Mike, I'm gonna have. Well, Mike, you've been on there commenting and stuff like that. Oleg, we need to see you on the platform. You know, if you see any projects with their updates and stuff, go to the community feed. Get people excited. I'm sure they'll like to see Oleg comment on their project. All right,
Yep, we're
guys.
gonna get there. Thank you.
No worries. All right, guys. This has been very insightful conversation for me. Good perspective that you guys have given on the ecosystem, how it's developing, and where it is to go. You gave me a lot of food for thought. I have a deeper appreciation for how things are happening in Bitcoin, as you very well articulated. What makes Bitcoin different from other industries. I want to encourage makers to hold fast on those principles, the way of building, and yeah, because we're really doing some transformational stuff, some big stuff in the space, in the world, and markets up now, number go up. If it's been difficult for you to stay motivated and whatnot, hopefully this conversation has given you a little bit more fuel and a bit of hope to continue building towards the end of Lightning and beyond. Mike, where can people reach out to you to find you? Do you want to drop some links? Any plugs?
LTNG Ventures, Lightning Ventures, LTNG.Ventures.
You got anything to plug?
Not really. If you want to get started investing in Bitcoin startups, Lightning Ventures is the world's largest Bitcoin-focused angel investing group. Hopefully you have some superpowers and are an awesome person either way and are a helpful contributor to our stable of folks. So reach out with the form on the website for the easiest onboarding process, which is just filling out that. And we are on the precipice of a fund too. It is coming. It is literally almost here. And, you know, it'll be a small fund compared to these other guys, but it's going to be a real fund. So that is almost ready. And that will hopefully get our income off zero. What a concept. Which means we might actually be able to sponsor shit.
There you go. Breaking even. Maybe you might hire a whole marketing team, but be careful with your.
Yeah.
What about you, Oleg? Do you have anything to plug besides the tournament itself? What's going on with you? Where can people find you?
We're at Folger.Ventures, and we're in fact looking for someone that is called Entrepreneur in Residence. And if you don't know this concept, you can Google for it. But in a nutshell, it's actually you kind of can do your startup, but you don't risk and you just get paid for it. I don't have a more formal specification, but if you're interested to do some entrepreneurial experimentation, being part of a Fulgur team, almost like no risk, and yeah, maybe even you get paid for it. But again, it's not like a formal job offer. It's not a formal position. It's more like an idea, just like throwing it in here and maybe it will stick with someone. So reach us out at Folger.Ventures also with the things that you're building. Looking forward to be speaking with you, and thanks, Jones, for having us.
Thank you guys for spreading your knowledge. I really appreciate it, and your support over the years as well. Signing off from Legends of Lightning.